As someone who's interned in both big tech and luxury firms across my undergraduate and now my master's experience, I have a lot of work experience when it comes to gaining referrals, landing work experiences that maybe weren't advertised, or landing roles through word of mouth and good relations from people I previously worked with. I'm going to run through some of the things that I do during my internship to prepare myself for a successful internship and to make sure that either I get a return offer that might come of value. So for example, I had a work experience that I turned into an internship. I turned a coffee chat into another internship. From one of those internships, I then got referred into a different internship role that wasn't advertised. And then I also had a couple meetings with companies through referrals that I didn't necessarily end up interning with, but still made connections that landed me in rooms and conversations that I wouldn't have otherwise been in. The first one is especially for companies which have a review process. So for example, in big tech with Amazon, you have a midpoint review and a final review, and those will determine checking points for determining whether or not you would be able to come back for a full-time internship or a full-time graduate role, whatever it is you're eligible for. So in terms of set formats and processes, things like this, the first thing we can always do is look at the criteria. Some of this might be obvious. So how are you performing? How are you demonstrating that you're adding value? Are you showing curiosity and engagement? Are you a good culture fit? Have you been successful in your tasks, projects, whatever it might be? Particular to Amazon, they have a set criteria on things that they assess you on. So for example, a big thing there is ambiguity and assessing how you handle ambiguity. And I didn't quite realize the extent of the importance of this until I went through checklist myself to see what managers are grading interns on. A huge component of that is when we're tasked with something that is on purpose very ambiguous, how do we then respond to that? So it was making sure that I was demonstrating and putting into my conversations with my manager and my project sponsors the different things that I was trying, say if I were faced with an ambiguous problem, how I was going about solving it. Trying to demonstrate there that I'm being resourceful, that I'm thinking outside the box, that I'm finding solutions that might not be obvious. Another thing within that is how do you then go above and beyond? You want to deliver on your deliverables. So for me, that was to generate products. Then also see if you can go above and beyond or maybe try something different. So for me, that was in the resources that I built. I built internal wiki page, which was not part of my deliverables, in order to educate PMs on how to use the tool effectively. And I built out tutorials out of that. I had lots of links. I designed a whole web page. It was quite in depth and in detail. It wasn't something that was necessary, but it helped add value to my product. So being really sure on or double checking on what they are grading you on and going out your way to add value are two really important things. The other thing is more of a networking thing, so that would be coffee chats. So at my work experience, I tried to squeeze in as much coffee chats as possible. I had around 3 or 2 coffee chats per week. This is something that I kept up at Amazon when I was doing a 5-month internship as well, meeting with as many different people as possible, both inside and outside of your team. For me, there was an angle to it. I want to know what different roles there are out there. So any roles or teams that interested me, I wanted to hear more about it. Get to know your wider team as well, because they will be feeding back things to your manager. But also strike up conversations from people across the organisation. You never know what the insight or value they might share with you that you wouldn't otherwise get. That's a third, and that's a really key one. I'd say a follow-on from that one is to make sure that you're following up on people. So if they've said, okay, I would really recommend you check out this resource, go check it out. That's something that you can then come back to them and say, hey, I checked this out. I thought XYZ was really interesting. And then you can follow off the conversation. So you keep coming back to the connection. You can strengthen that relationship that you make. So that's something that I really try to do as well. If they said, okay, I have this friend, you can reach out to them, have a chat with them, they might be interesting for you to speak to. I would then most certainly make that connection and then let them know either that I was going to, or that I had reached out, or that I then had already made that connection, and keep them in the loop, keep them up to date, and then keep that conversation going. So even if it's something outside of that or something that you had a conversation about with one of your co-workers, try and make the effort to follow up on that. So I would take down notes and use that to help me stay in conversation with a lot of different people at the same time. The next thing I would say is keeping track of all the projects and deliverables that you've done. So I kept a spreadsheet of all the projects I was working on, but also all the people that I'd met and all the tasks and activities that maybe I wasn't doing as part of my main project, but that I had volunteered with on the side. And volunteering for things outside your scope or to help someone else in the team is something I would also really recommend, not just to build connections, but widen your scope as well. So that's something that then at the end I could say, okay, these are all the different ways in which I've added value. And then the final thing I would say is, this is particularly for if you're in big tech and you've got relocation stipends and you have things for salary sacrifice, it's just being mindful then of how you spend the internship money that you're making. Obviously, I invested most of it. I had a lot of conversations with other interns in terms of how they were using it, and I think it was a pretty equal divide between those who were investing it and then those who were spending it and didn't necessarily know how to save their money or the different benefits and resources that there are, like salary sacrifice, in order to make more out of what you're getting. Those are all the things I would suggest in order to guarantee a successful internship, and they have helped me have really successful internships and is what helped me secure a return offer from Amazon and get job offers from Estee Lauder companies. So I hope that helps, and best of luck with your internship experience.